Hey GBA fans, it's Choice CJ back again with the Game of the Week and Season Award Watch with my co-host Jamesanity.
Hey guys, it's Jamesanity.
And let's hop right on into things. Now this is a very interesting week of games. There are a few close ones, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys about my Game of the Week right away. I'm going to go ahead and choose Coach MV versus Coach Old Man Tup, the San Diego Chimchargers versus the Pittsburgh Paratitas. No offense to Tup, but I think if you had asked anybody before this week how this game was going to be, seeing the first place team versus the last place team, I don't think many people would have given Tup much of a chance. But he really did put on quite a show. There's been a little bit of discussion about some of the sets that he brought, like the offensive Blissey and things like that, but I like that he's mixing it up. And it had some decent offensive potential versus MV's team. Unfortunately, it was still sort of set up fodder for the Virizion. Early on in the game, Virizion came in versus that Blissey, and Blissey had Ice Beam, but it wasn't enough to even 2 KO the Virizion, so Virizion got a very easy kill on the Tangrowth. The turn right after that, Staraptor came in, and it was banded, but by the way it came in, it should have telegraphed to MV that it had a chance to be Choice Scarf. So if I had been Tup in that situation, I might have just gone ahead and clicked Brave Bird. It would have revealed that he was choice banned all the same, just like his quick attack did, but it at least would have gotten off the KO on Cress early on. The second time that the Staraptor was in on the Virizion, though, it did go for the Brave Bird, so that was nice for him to make that adjustment later on in the match. I liked the Steelix set. It was a very good way to potentially lure in the Landorus and also stop a Calm Minding substitute Cresselia, which is exactly what MV brought. Tup had no other answer to Calm Mind Cresselia, so that was a really nice prep on his part. The Stealth Rock War, the Hazard War, I think was really crucial this game. MV was very adamant about preventing rocks, which was really important to preserve the multiscale on the Dragonite. And Dragonite did go on to net 3 kills in this game, which is pretty nice. They got a kill on the Blissey, on the Staraptor, and on the Tapu Koko. There's a little bit of discussion towards the end of the match about whether Tup should have gone for rocks or not to potentially break the multi-scale on the Dragonite. I think that was probably the right play, but I don't think it ended up making a big difference because at the end of the game it was a full health Dragonite and a Landorus in the back that was Choice Scarf going up against a Tapu Koko. And even if Dazzling Gleam would have been able to kill the Dragonite, there's no way that Tapu Koko was going to live that Earthquake from the Scarf Lando. So it just would have made the differential different. It wouldn't have necessarily won the game for Tup. So I don't mind so much that he didn't go for the rocks. Only other thing that I'll mention is that Muck is really a monster. Like it doesn't necessarily sweep every game, but that Figgy Berry set is just so good. It tanks hits. There's so few things that can one-shot Muck because it only has that one weakness to ground, and it always gets that Figgy Berry off, and you basically have to kill Muck twice. Is kind of what it feels like. This week he was able to take on Tapu Koko reasonably well. It got off a knockoff on the Blissey to remove its leftovers, and it was able to get off a Poison Jab on Staraptor to put it in range of extreme speed. There wasn't really a moment in this game where I thought Tup necessarily could have made the one play that would have won him the game, and I feel like MV was in control this whole game, but it was a really fast-paced back and forth, good prep on both ends, good play on both ends, so that's good enough for me to net Game of the Week. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are a little similar to yours. I didn't really like how MV was kind of in control the whole game. I don't really want to use the term in control, but he was basically in control most of the match. Yeah, nobody really expected the first place versus the last place to be such a close match, but it ended up being a 2-0, and not many people really expected that, so I would easily put it as my number 2.
Nice, cool. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you think your number 1 would be?
So my number 1 is Gym Leader Geo and the San Francisco Giants versus Itagator and his Florida Gators. This was also a 2-0, and I like this match just a tiny bit more. As much as I am a Tup fan, I had to go with Geo versus Gator on this one. My first and big comment is Choice Banded Arcanine got 3 kills this match, and I don't really think Gator was too prepared for it, but it is a unique set, so I probably wouldn't have been either. It did obviously net 3 kills, and it just put in a lot of work during the entire game. It really set it in Geo's favor. The lead matchup was Heatran versus Heatran, which would normally not happen in a draft league, but it did happen thanks to Geo's Ditto. And unfortunately, due to a last-minute change from Gator, Heatran couldn't touch Heatran. Then it ended up being a bit of a stall war for a few turns. And a little bit later in the match, the Mamoswine from the Florida Gators lives on 1 HP, exactly 1 HP from Gengar Energy Ball, and manages to knock it out with a crit knockoff. I don't believe that crit mattered, but nonetheless, it was still a roll for the Mamoswine to live, and I believe it was a roll in Geo's favor, so a little bit of, I guess you could call it hacks, but I wouldn't. And near the end of the match, the Arcanine, which, as I mentioned, put in quite a bit of work this match, lived a high jump kick, a -1 Hawlucha high jump kick, to be precise, at a very low amount of health in order to win the game for Geo 2-0. I really thought this was one of the closer matches of the week, possibly the closest. I felt like it could have gone either way at any point, and I never really felt like one player had a lead at any time in the match. So that's why I chose it. I normally choose matches based on how close they are, and it was definitely the closest for me. CJ, what are your thoughts?
This was another really good game, and I came very close to making it my choice for Game of the Week. Just right off the bat, as you mentioned, the Ditto facing up against the Heatran on turn 1, basically it felt like Gator was playing with 5 Mons instead of 6, because that Heatran could not do anything versus Ditto. So just right off the bat, Gator was at a huge disadvantage. It's a little disappointing, like you said, that he couldn't figure out how to fit the Earth Power onto his set. I don't recall exactly what the problem was. I think it was some sort of genning issue, but that would have made his Heatran a lot better to potentially hit a Ditto on the switch in. I did like the end game tactics, like you mentioned. I think that the Sky Attack was the correct play coming out of the Hawlucha when it was facing down that Arcanine, because if he Swords Dance and the Arcanine stays in and clicks E-Speed is an easy 2 at KO. If he goes for SD and Ditto comes in, then the Ditto's going to be able to revenge kill. And there was a little bit of confusion in the match about how the sticky webs would work. Ditto would initially get slowed, but then after it copies Hawlucha's speed stat, and then it gets boosted by the Choice Scarf. So Ditto would have had the chance to revenge kill pretty easily. The only circumstance where Sky Attack wasn't the right play is if he expected the Conk to come in, but I don't think there's any universe where Conk is going to be coming in on a Hawlucha. That was the right play on Gator's end. It's just unfortunate for Gator, because there's really no path to victory for him short of getting double crits. He needed to crit the Arcanine with a high jump kick, or maybe he just needed a favorable roll. And then he needed to crit the Conkeldurr in order to break through the Intimidate and get a little bit of extra damage on the Conk. It was really down to the wire, but the rolls were all in Geo's favor, and it's just always cool when it plays down to the wire like that. So I agree, this is another nice match this week. So once again, we are going to talk about our season awards, and we do 3 categories each week. We do the Offensive Pokemon of the Season, Defensive Pokemon of the Season, and Coach of the Season. We are now 2/3 of the way through GBA Season 7, and you'd think that would provide a little more clarity into who are the top Mons for each of these categories. But I think if anything, things have become more confusing and more cloudy just because there's so many Pokemon that are putting in stellar performances. Just lots of Mons this week getting big kills, like Mew was able to get 5 kills this week, and Jirachi was able to pick up 6 kills. Dragonite from the San Diego Chimchargers got 4 kills. But I'd like to mention 4 Pokemon here at the top of the leaderboard that I think are a notch above the rest. First off is the Cobalion, which has been at the top of our charts since I think about week 3. This Pokemon 4 times in this season has gotten 2 or more kills in a match. It's been brought to 6 out of 8 games, and only 1 time did it fail to even get a single kill. So Cobalion's been really crushing it for the Detroit Stillwings. Next up, we do have Crocodile. Crocodile has been on the leaderboards for a few weeks now. This only has 2 weeks in which it's had 2 or more kills. Most recently this week against the St. Louis Rampardos. The Hydro Vortex was able to get off a big hit on Dan's Gliscor, knocking that thing out very early and really crippling Dan's position. And we also can't forget the 6 kills that Crocodile got early on in the season versus Battler X, so that's allowing Crocodile to stay in this category. Next up we have Swellow. Swellow's another Pokemon that has 3 weeks in this season where it's had at least 2 kills. It unfortunately laid a goose egg this week, not getting any kills against the San Francisco Arcaniners, but the previous week it did net 4 kills against the Milwaukee Sawsbucks, It has 2 other weeks where it's gotten at least 2 kills. And it's a very, very potent offensive Mon that can hit on both sides. I really like it. And then last but not least, we have a kind of a sleeper pick, a newcomer to this category. We have Virizion of the San Diego Chimchargers. And it's funny, Virizion did not come to any of the first 3 games, if I'm not mistaken. But it's come to each of the last 5 and has been able to accumulate 10 total kills in that time. This week it was able to get nice damage off on the Tangrowth and really whittle down the Pittsburgh Paratitas. I'm expecting that, now that Envy's really shown how potent this thing is, I'm expecting it to continue to sweep up games, and it might even climb above Crocodile, might even climb above Swallow in these leaderboards, or even Cobalion. We'll have to see. But yeah, those are my top 4, and there's probably going to be some fluidity in these rankings still later on this season, but that's where it stands right now.
I do have to mention, though, we've seen Cobalion, Virizion, and Terrakion all grace the offensive Mons leaderboard.
Yeah, it's really funny. We'll have to. I think they said this on the weekly recap that we need to see Keldeo up on these leaderboards sometime soon.
Well, anyway, moving swiftly into the defensive Mons of the week. Firstly, we have Melodic. It's still at the top, and it's the only one that's really doing well consistently. Like every week, it's putting in the same, and not exactly the same, but it's putting in pretty well, especially this week against the Dawn Fan, lasting almost the entire match, but not quite. Only the Infernape holds that armor. I am going to lump these 2 together. These are Pyukumuku and Zapdos. Neither performed exceptionally well this week, so haven't been performing as consistently as Melodic, but they're still up there in the top 3. And a new addition this week is we have the Alolan Muck from the San Diego Chimchargers. It shut down Steve's team entirely early in the season and performed pretty well this week as well. So we decided to include it. It's done quite a bit of defensive work, and it may have gone unnoticed until now, but
yeah, Muck has been really amazing, and you also have to mention that it survived the facade from Swallow of the Utah Jasmine back in Week 6, which was really impressive. It was able to snipe a Tyranitar in Week 5 versus the Alola Athletics. So Muck just every single week is able to just wall one particular Pokemon or snipe one particular Pokemon and really put it in Envy's favor. Moving on to the Coach of the Season category, I guess it's sort of appropriate that we finished off that conversation talking about Muck, because we are going to be talking about the team that Muck is starring for, and that is the San Diego Chimchargers, coached by Lord Envy. He's now on a 7-game winning streak. He has a plus 19 differential, if I'm not mistaken. Best in the league. This man is just out of control. A lot of people didn't think he had the most threatening team. Like, obviously he had a lot of offensive threats, but it wasn't necessarily a team that a lot of people considered well-rounded. But he's been able to use it incredibly effectively, and he has improved on the well-roundedness, giving it some bulk with Cresselia that he's brought in the last 2 weeks. He's brought Substitute Calm Mindsets, which are extremely scary. Cresselia is a Pokemon that needs to be statused in order to be taken down the majority of the time, or you need a very powerful stab, super effective move in order to take it out. And the substitute sets eliminate at least half of those options if you have a speedy enough Cresselia. So that's quite nice. He's just been lighting it up, and he's got 4 more games to go. We'll have to see if any of the remaining coaches have what it takes to knock him down. What do you think about Lord MV?
all of this kind of reminds me a little bit of Mulvone in the Cincinnati Loudreds a few seasons ago. A lot of people rated his team very offensive. They didn't see much bulk in it besides like Empoleon, but he really did well with that team, and he made it all the way to playoffs if I'm correct. So I do have to mention that it's not as much the team as it is the player behind the team when it comes to GBA. So there's that much.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, and MV is really showing us that. So, of course, if you guys would like, in the comment section below, share your thoughts on who are the most deserving members for each of these categories, who is the most deserving coach for season, coach of the season. It would really mean a lot to us. And with that, we will go ahead and wrap up this video. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel so you can stay up to date on all of our analyst videos. And make sure you check out our coaches as well so you can catch all of the weekly action. James, what are your last words?
I don't really have any last words this week. other than see ya.
All right. The words of Jamesanity. See you later, guys. Until the next time.